Why don't we just boil seawater to get fresh water? I've wondered about this for years. A question I have. If power plants boil water to power steam turbines anyway, using heat from burning coal, oil, gas, fission, why don't we just put salt water in our power plants, collect the salt, collect the fresh water, collect the electricity, win-win-win. The energy needed to completely boil the thousands of tons of water needed in cities each day would be tremendous and so huge it would take likely the entire energy supply of a large city to boil enough water for a small city. We can, but it is far and away the most expensive process for getting fresh water available, both in carbon emissions and dollars, but it is something we can do in the event we run out of other sources. A last resort when population gets too big for existing water sources. There's just a whole lot of other, cheaper things we can do first. The amount of energy needed for desalination would be insanely high for any significant quantities of water. Also, there really is no need as freshwater supplies of water will regenerate over time, so as long as we don't overpopulate too quickly this won't be an issue. The main reason is because desalination through distillation or reverse osmosis is incredibly expensive and requires a lot of energy. Also, after the seawater is turned into fresh water, there is a large amount of leftover salt and other solutes that need to be taken care of. This is entirely possible, but the reason we don't boil seawater to make freshwater is because it takes a flockton of energy to boil millions of gallons of water, especially seawater which contains salt and thus has a higher boiling point. It's cheaper and easier to let the sun do it for free and wait for the freshwater to fall out of the sky afterwards. There is another issue that no one is addressing. Desalination works better along the coastlines. It wouldn't do much to help places like Arizona or Afghanistan. Shipping or piping that water hundreds of miles is also very energy intensive, especially going uphill. Desalination plants are heavily used in the Persian Gulf as almost a close enough exclusive source of fresh water. The plants there double up of making fresh water and electricity from steam turbines, taking advantage of the availability of cheap fuel sources produced locally. Source: I work nearby one of those plants. Well, keep in mind that boiling water is also a method that is used in electricity generation. So knowing very little about the topic or physics in general, I am going to take a stab and say it has high energy cost. For one person, it's doable, but who's going to sit and wait for X amount of hours to have it evaporate under the sun? I am oversimplifying it. Sure, you can use a stove, but that's going to cost you Y amount of energy to speed that production up. And #X200B. And that's where the issues start to arrive when you expand it to support humanity. Energy, and where's all that excess salt gonna go? Quote closing square bracket. My portable air conditioning unit in my room creates a liter of water every hour or so. It's annoying as it will cut the aircon once the little tank is full, but that's another story. I always wondered, is that water drinkable? If so, when the apocalypse finally comes, provided I can get power, wouldn't that be an awesome way to get clean drinking water? My county built a desalination plant. It took like 5 years to build the plant plus all the road construction to move the water to the reservoir. The water accounts for only like 9% of the county water and costs more to use. That said, the coasts should be littered with desalination plants. Steam distillation of water for desalination has been used. The only problem is it uses a lot of energy. So it is mainly used in Saudi Arabia where oil is almost free, or in nuclear submarines where there is a nuclear reactor. Boiling water takes a lot of energy. That's a lot of coal, sunshine, gas, etc. Also need to put the salt somewhere without poisoning the environment. Salt isn't particularly healthy in the large doses it produces. I'm not sure why we haven't gotten around these issues. But I'm not in charge of any power grids, and probably shouldn't be. Couldn't you just use solar power to get the power to boil the water? California complains that they don't have enough water, but they have a whole coast and they can just use solar energy to boil all the water that they want. Single quote closing square bracket. Look up the specific heat capacity of water. The energy required to create a phase change from liquid to steam is incredibly high. Astoundingly high. We do it all the time in desalination plants, but the cost is too high to make it worth it. Believe it or not, water is very cheap and quite plentiful due to water treatment plants and modern technologies.